And the Mets defense tonight, of course, the pitcher's best friend in right field, Darryl Strawberry. Darryl Boston is out in center, newly acquired. Kevin Reynolds, outstanding left fielder around the infield. Hojo at third base. Kevin Elster last year set an all-time record for most consecutive games by a shortstop without an error. That's 88. Greg Jeffries started out at third, but he's now a second baseman.
Juan Samuel to lead it off in a high fastball for ball one. Samuel hitting just .212. And check out this on-base percentage, .280.
Well, lifetime on-base percentage of only 30%.
This ball popped up in foul territory. Marshall may have a play, the wind blowing and it drifting into the photographer's box. And so Marshall unable to get it, and it's 1 ball, 1 strike. One of the Dodgers' problems is that they just don't have a leadoff hitter, and Juan Samuel is not the answer.
Well, look, as Mike Marshall looking to see where he is in proximity to the stands, and a very big man at over 6'5", but couldn't reach that one even with a tremendous arm span. Well, the same problems, the reason the Mets traded for Juan Samuel. They needed a leadoff man. This year, of course, Greg Jeffries doing a nice job here in New York.
There's that Doc Gooden heat for strike 2, and it's 1-2 to Samuel.
When I had a chance to talk to Dwight earlier before, he said, I have not been able to get my curveball over. And I said, hey, well, then why don't you go with a fastball? You still have an awfully good one. And that's all we've seen tonight, 3 straight. There's another one.
One of the things that has been a tendency of Dwight Gooden throughout his career is that he does not pitch as well in cold weather. He is from Tampa, Florida, and he's admitted that it is a problem, whether it be psychological or physical. A check swing foul as the ball was out of the strike zone, 2-2.
Oh, good point, because you never know what he's thinking. But I'll tell you, from a physical standpoint, what cold weather does, it makes you a little bit more difficult as you look at the on-deck hitter Willie Randolph be able to feel the ball, and a curveball is a feel pitch.
And there is a curveball, but it's a little high, and the count is full.
You come out of spring training, and you talked about Dwight being from Tampa. You come out of a warm weather, you can feel the ball comes off your fingertips, which is what the curveball has to do, get it out in front of your body.
Samuel, as he is often done, chases the high fastball, and Dwight Gooden picks up the first K, and the Doc can get him in bunches. Let's go back to the studio and John Saunders.
The Cubs in the red. Scott Scudder on the mound facing Ryan Sandberg. Jerome Walton aboard. This has gone a 2-run home run. Andre Dawson has also homered. Mariano Duncan, the leading hitter in the league, has been suspended for pushing umpire
in operations.
Randolph running here. Sasser's throw is wild and into center field, and Randolph will go to third. And Jeffries is hurt.
He's not very smooth. A little bit late getting there, and then he comes down on his ankle and hurts it.
First stolen base of the year for Randolph. The error on Sasser, the 30th already for the Mets. So Randolph at third with 1 out, and now 2 out as Daniel swings and misses. Second strikeout for Gooden.
Well, the one ability that Dwight Gooden has, and when he gets in a jam, he can strike you out. First curveball he's thrown for a strike tonight.
And when Doc Gooden has this good curveball, and the players often refer to curves as Uncle Charlie, you can refer to the doctors as Lord Charles, because it is some kind of quality.
Well, they always say a good curveball looks like it comes right off the table. In other words, goes to the edge of the table and just drops. And when Dwight Gooden has his, that's what it will do.
Eddie Murray hitting .299 with 5 homers and 15 RBIs. And the Gooden fastball for strike 1.
And Doc loves to pitch against the Dodgers. 9-1 lifetime, 1-0 last year, and Eddie Murray's first year was last year. But you're looking at some awfully good numbers there, and totally lifetime. Talking about Hall of Fame numbers when you're talking about Eddie Murray.
He went too far on the high heat. Strike 2. Randolph, who singled with 1 out here in the first, stole second and went to third on the throwing error by Sasser. At third base with 2 out. The doctor is in. He strikes out the side in the first inning. 1 hit, 1 left as we go to the bottom of the first.
Hey, good hustle, son. Way to go.
We'll lead it off. And a fastball for ball one. Hubie on the year hitting .246 with 6 homers and 19 RBIs. Mike Scioscia and Lenny Harris to follow. And the fastball foul back, 1-1.
I think what the Dodgers try to do is to try to get somebody to hit behind Eddie Murray. You know, last year Eddie led the ball club with walks with 87. And that's a lot of times who do you want to pitch to? You want to pitch to Eddie Murray or the 5th place hitter? And now you might think about it. That's why Brooks has 19 RBIs.
A little bit high with the fastball, 2-1.
Came up as a shortstop, moved to third, then they needed him in right field, and that's where he's been.
On the inside corner, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Dwight Gooden and wife Monica enjoying their first child. Doc said he has not been getting much sleep lately, and a lot of us can identify with that. Oh, baby. See you later. Take a seat.
4 outs, 4 punch outs.
That is Lord Charles right there. He has struck out 4.
Well, a good curveball. It looks like a fastball till it curves. And that's what the hitters tell you. And right here, Brooks thinks it's a fastball. Let me get out of the way. Uh-oh.
You see Frank Viola leading and Dwight Gooden.
Yeah, well, Dwight
third.
may catch him in about 2 innings because now he's got 42.
He's now second.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing. I mean, if you look at Dwight's, even though he's 1 and 3, and you look at the earned runs, but the walks have been no more than 2 walks, maybe with exception of 1 game with 3 strikeouts, 7, 10. Yet he keeps giving up some runs.
And here are 2 teams struggling, and the one thing about that graphic, all the pitchers on there are either Mets or Dodgers, leading the National League in strikeouts. Mike Scioscia takes a very close pitch, 2 balls, 1 strike. Scioscia showing some newfound power. He ordinarily would hit maybe 5 home runs in a whole year. He's hit 5 already this year. And he just hit one well into the gap in right center field. It may not get out of here, but it's going to make the wall. Boston up with it, and Scioscia cruises in with a stand-up double with 1 out here in the second.
Last year hit 10 home runs. That was his most ever. I said, is this a concentrated effort? Are you hitting the long ball? He said no. A little older, a little smarter. And he said, I've gotten a lot of good pitches to hit. And here's a classic example. 2 and 1. What do you do? You're a low ball hitter. You look for a ball down in the strike zone to drive. Wind's blowing out. Get a good swing, and results a double.
Just out in front of that ball a little bit, or he might have hit it out of here. He hit it very well. Lenny Harris hitting just .207, the hitter, and he can't catch up to the high heat. Strike 1.
Yeah, I think that's the mentality that you need to try to go up to the plate with. I'm going to make the ball be down, because if you swing at this pitch, Doc's got you. I mean, it's over. You can't hit it. It looks so good, but you really have to have a quick bat to get on top of that good high fastball.
That one farther down in the strike zone, but Harris still couldn't get it. He did foul it off for strike 2. Gooden has been throwing in excess of 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, I never really felt that Dwight Gooden got by just with velocity. I mean, we talked about the curveball. We've seen that, but for Doc, what's as important is movement. In other words, be relaxed, get the ball out on the fingertips, and let it just run.
Check swing, roller to third. Harris can run, and Johnson has to eat it. Scioscia moves to third on the play, and it'll be a check swing infield base hit for Lenny Harris. And the Dodgers have runners at first and third with 1 out here in the second. This is something that has happened to Dwight Gooden frequently in his career. Little things like this that get him in trouble.
Well, with 2 strikes, of course, if you're Howard Johnson, you're playing back. You're playing percentage baseball. You can see him well in back of the bag. So he has no chance. Now, if that's with only 1 strike or no strikes, he's probably going to make that play because he's up, maybe expecting a bunt.
Certainly even with the bag.
Exactly.
So Alfredo Griffin, the hitter, as a throw to first keeps Harris close. Lenny Harris can steal a base. He's had 4 steals in 5 attempts. Mike Scioscia at third. Fastball foul back, and the count now 0-2. Griffin hitting .296, no homers and 5 RBIs.
You know, Steve, he's never been the same since a couple of years ago when Gooden hit him on the right hand. Broke one of the bones in his hands, and he has had trouble hitting really much more than 200 last year, right at about 240. Hasn't really had the same type of bat speed.
Slaps at this fastball. It looked to be out of the strike zone, and it's out of play. Mike Morgan, the pitcher, on deck. As our colleague Chris Berman would say, fettuccine Alfredo Griffin.
Well, in all deference to Chris, Mike Flanagan, who I had a chance to talk to last night, recently released by the Toronto Blue Jays. Fettuccine Alfredo, he called him that years ago. He's just not on SportsCenter.
Strike 3, but Harris steals uncontestedly on the pitch as Sasser had no chance. 2 out in the inning, and now runners at second and third. Second stolen base of the game for the Dodgers.
5 outs, 5 strikeouts. I mean, he just couldn't catch up. Wise play by Mackey Sasser. Just hold on to it, and with the pitcher coming up, here it is, folks. The big difference between National League Baseball and the American League with the DH. You don't get to face the hitter, the pitcher, over in the American League.
And here, 2 runners in scoring position. Morgan has a hack and fouls it back for strike 1.
Mike with only 3 base hits all of 1989. Like I talked to Bob O'Hean, he said, you know, he said, I wouldn't want to go back to the American League because of this fact. He likes to hit. Feels that pitchers in the National League are more into the game. Also, it's easier to get 8 hitters out instead of 9.
That's right. He also likes pitching to hit to pitchers.
Exactly.
And there's Morgan chasing one out of the strike zone, and it's 0-2. He already has 2 hits this year. He's almost ahead of the game. Now the crowd will get behind the doctor for that 3rd strike and 3rd out. And they get it. Dwight Gooden has struck out all 6 outs so far. 95-mile-an-hour fastball for the 6th one.
Ball in right field and took a very conservative approach.
Brooks did one thing that keeps runners from going. He hit the cutoff man, and that's what you have to do.
But by circling, he did allow the runner on first to go all the way to third. So
it's true.
Good news and bad news, so to speak.
Dwight Gooden loves to hit, and he has had some success in his career, but this year just 133. He does have an 167. He does have an RBI. Outside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Just to describe on the nights that he pitched, this is an American League lineup. You got a DH in there. I don't know about that, Dwight, but
he likes to think that. I saw him in the clubhouse this afternoon. What was he doing? Swinging a bat.
Well, you can really help yourself. Obviously, 1st and 3rd situation, 1 out. You put the ball in play to the right side or hit a fly ball. Instead of a 1-run lead, you can double it. You get lucky, might be able to drive in 2 additional runs.
Sasser, who has not stolen a base nor attempted one, draws a throw. One and 1 to Gooden. Fastball grounded to short. Griffin backs up, gets one at second, in the dirt and off Murray's glove, and a run scores as Boston comes in to make it 2-0 New York. It'll be an RBI for Gooden.
Also some hustle as you look at Griffin, the shortstop. Plenty of time for Willie Randolph to make the play, even though Mackey Sasser's hustling down there, and a tough play for Eddie Murray. He can't come up with it. 2-0. Should have turned it. Talked about the poorest Mets defense. The Dodgers in 29 games had made 27 errors, 10 in Montreal. So there's a gift run.
And you talk about a play like that, which should have been made. It wasn't
a good night to pitch from a standpoint of staying strong. Just a tough night to field the baseball. I mean, Willie Randolph's got to say, hey, you almost hit me in the head the first time, and then he hits me, whether it hit the end of the bat or not, he hits me in the hand.
Game hitting streak. End of the game hitting 246.
And when he starts to get in stride, talking about Yugi Brooks, he will hit the ball the other way. Occasional home run power.
Gets jammed on a looper to second. Jeffries hauls it in, and the runners, of course, have no opportunity to advance, and it's out number 1.
We talked about Laura Charles, Uncle Charlie off the table. That is in your kitchen.
This is a horrible night to get jammed, too. It's so cold. Your hands feel like you've been shocked with electricity.
In your kitchen is well up on the bat.
Yubi tried to get the bat hit.
Yeah, Yubi was an outstanding hitting coach. The White Sox going with a lot of their younger players, Dave Gallagher, Sammy Sosa, and Darrell, the odd man out, and he comes over to New York and has an opportunity to play. Mike Morgan with 4 base on balls, all 4 of them have scored.
And he just issued the 5th, which is an intentional walk.
And that's why managers have gray hair. Tommy Lasorda saying, wait a minute, this is not the way it's supposed to happen. A guy that only had 3 walks in 38, whatever, 2/3 innings, and tonight he can't throw it over. That's why baseball is such a humbling game. Just when you think you got it figured out, you got to go back out there.
Yep. But it's also a redeeming game because more often than not you have a chance to go back out there. Gooden drove in a run, grounding into a fielder's choice, his first time up in the second. And a strike run on the outside corner, 0-1. 2 runs are in, and the Mets have regained the lead 4-3. The bases are loaded with 2 out. A curveball, and it's 0-2. Maybe there should be a rule that pitchers cannot throw other pitchers' curveballs.
I would have liked that.
I'd put a little more offense in the game.
Just a little.
One and 2.
Well, I think a good theory for pitchers that if you is just to look for the fastball till you get 2 strikes and then really scuffle, which is what a lot of hitters do. Pretty good hitters that are primarily just fastball hitters until they have to be otherwise.
Now the hitters that are good 2-strike hitters are rare. They usually are guys who hit for a good average but don't have a tremendous amount of power because they don't have that big swing.
Or a guy like Wade Boggs that's willing to take all those pitches because he feels comfortable hitting with 2 strikes.
Ball 2, 2 and 2.
That's what makes the game of baseball so difficult. You sit here, you know what Mike Morgan's trying to do to Dwight Gooden, which is to get him out with curveballs, and yet tonight he's not getting that pitch over.
Gooden with a drive to center field. Samuel running, won't catch up to it. Here goes the merry-go-round. Marshall scores, Boston scores, Sasser scores, and Gooden has a triple.
We said one of the great hitters, Dwight Gooden. And Juan Manuel, second year in center field, really misplays his ball. He thinks the ball is not going to be going that far because of the wind blowing from left to right. He comes in, then goes back, and goes over his head for a triple. And a big lead for the Mets.
7-3, the Mets leading, and Greg Jeffries, the 9th man to bat in the inning for New York. He's 0 for 2, having flied to left and grounded to second. 1-1.
One of the truly great outfielders I ever had a chance to play with. It seems like they're born with an innate computer that computes the shortest distance to where the ball is going to come to for maybe Ron Darling. Of course, I'm not sure that trade has ever been suggested to the Mets, or they'd probably make it. Well, the Giants need pitching.
Yep.
Darling wants to pitch.
Well, I heard today from the front office that there's really nothing to the rumor because they haven't discussed it with them. Well, we mentioned earlier, this is Comic Relief Night here at Shea Stadium. Comic Relief will be live tomorrow here in New York to raise money for the homeless, and one of those participating and one of the funniest ladies around who sang the national anthem tonight so beautifully.
Really?
Elaine Boosler is with
Gosh,
us.
thanks. That high note, I'm 2 inches shorter now.
Glad to have you here, Elaine.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here on an inning like that.
And you can pinch hit because we got a pinch hitter in Brian Traxler, who's hitting for Mike Morgan and swings and misses for strike one.
You know all about Brian, don't you?
No, I don't.
Played at Albuquerque last year. I tried to find him in the press guide. He said, I'm not in there. I haven't played long enough.
Can you play without humidity?
Apparently so.
Yes.
Only in
Albuquerque?
AAA.
Oh.
Without humidity and at high altitude.
Whoa.
It's 0-2 now to Traxler.
Well, that brings up a good point. Both the AA and AAA in very warm climates, San Antonio and Albuquerque, and a lot of guys have what they call the Albuquerque swing for the Dodgers. Get it up in the air and let it just fly, and it's really caused some problems
Because
when
the heat carries it?
Well, yeah, but what happened, you have a home run swing, which doesn't work in the National League. It's a little bit more humidity in Los Angeles.
And there's less altitude also.
But isn't it true that nothing that worked before works when you get to the National League?
That's true. Traxler just found that out, how difficult it is to hit against Gooden. And Gooden picks up his 8th strikeout.
What a night.
Yeah, Dr. K is back.
What are you going to be doing tomorrow night, Elaine?
Well, if I can do what Gooden just did batting in that last inning, I asked Greg Jeffries, I'm on first tomorrow night. I asked him for some leadoff tips. He told me to slide head first right into the stage.
Does that make you extra nervous to be?
No, I intend to do everyone's best line when I get out there and leave them with nothing.
So it's a big advantage to go
yes.
first. Juan Samuel, the hitter, he's 1 for 2. Well, Comic Relief has done so much. And,
Well, I'm so glad to be here tonight. It's great to tie it in with people's 2 favorite things in America, baseball and comedy.
Boy, that's the truth.
Nice to raise some money that way.
Not only did you sing the national anthem, but we had Billy Crystal, Whoopi Goldberg, and Robin Williams each throw out the first ball.
Robin almost got lynched. He stood in the field and said, "Go Niners."
Oh.
He hasn't been to many ball games.
Robin, in fact, last season here at Shea Stadium attended only his 2nd major league game in his
I saw
life.
that day. And you got a foul ball right in the booth.
Yeah, we gave it to Robin as a memento. The appeal, and no, says the first base umpire, Dutch Renner.
How did you stage that exactly when they were in the booth? That's the remarkable thing.
And you don't get that many foul balls in the booth.
No,
actually.
a lot of dents below the booth, but not too many in the booth.
That one's fouled off out of play, and the count's still 1-2 to Samuel with 1 out and nobody on. So besides Whoopi and Billy and Robin and yourself and
Louis Anderson, Richard Lewis, Paul Rodriguez. Oh gosh, it's just zillions of comics.
That's great.
Billions of comics.
And of course it benefits the homeless, one
Right?
of our most worthy causes. This one could be in play, and it drops fair just inside the line. Now Samuel hustling for second, and he makes it. Samuel with a hustling double, his 2nd hit of the night. Elaine, you live in Los Angeles, but you have a Mets jacket on.
I have a Mets jacket and a Mets good spot in my heart for the Mets. I do go to Dodger Stadium a lot when the Mets come into town.
Samuel thought about down by 4 runs whether he should go to second base. He makes up his mind and is easily in. Kevin Elster there to snare the high throw.
So with 1 out, Samuel in scoring position for Willie Randolph, who has a hit and was hit by a pitch. 1 for 1 plus a run scored. Samuel to third, but Randolph fouls it back. Sasser will have no play, and Samuel, who his last time up stole both second and third, will have to go back to second. They're not wasting any time on running on Doc.
You see real paranoid pitchers, they throw to first when there's nobody even on. These are guys who are in control of the game.
Well, the Mets may be doing that pretty soon because every team is running at will against them.
Well,
what they're doing with Dwight Gooden is that he just takes one look at second base and they go. I mean, you've got to change your pacing. You got to look there a couple of times, step off. It's 4 runs down. It's obvious they're going to run, and he's already made some.
Did they bring his leg down so he could throw faster and that hurt his arm?
Yes, he did. Samuel is safe at third again.
Well, what they did last year is Doc would stop his hands higher in his delivery because they felt that he could get the ball to home plate a little bit quicker. And
so they killed some of the high kicks so he could throw to first quicker, but then that put too much strain on his arm.
That's what they call a slide step. And right here, a good pitch to run on a curveball that stays high. Also a very tough pitch to throw on if you're Mackey Sasser. Not only do you have to throw on a curveball that takes longer, you have to throw over the batter, and that's Willie Randolph. You got a good point. They tried to get Doc to do that, but they don't want to change the overall motion. The one that allows him to throw the ball with that kind of velocity.
I think Fernandez, too, they were working on changing his delivery so he could throw.
The big thing that Sid has, of course, is you look at an 88% success story for base runners against the Mets.
And that's
part of it's Sasser, parts
right.
it Lyons, but a lot of it's the pitcher's fault.
I think most of it is that the Mets staff just doesn't hold them on.
But last year,
that's a fly ball out of play down the right field.
Last year they were the most stolen on, but also stole the most bases. So doesn't it kind of even out? Or did they steal them? I thought they did steal them.
No.
Depend who gets on.
I must be thinking of hockey. I guess it does depend who gets on. That's
I didn't know they stole bases in hockey.
Oh gosh, you've seen some of these games.
Whereas Robin Williams, they don't steal home, they occupy it.
That's right.
They occupy it.
Great
It's going condo. Home base is going co-op in New York. He's got to buy that plate to stand there.
And the high inside fastball strikes out Randolph for the second out of the inning. Gooden has struck out 9 through 3 2/3.
You realize at Dodger Stadium, if this was Dodger Stadium, we'd be alone here now. People don't want to. They want to beat the traffic.
Well, you're looking at the ninth strikeout for Dwight Gooden, and this is one of the reasons they really have not tried to get Doc to adjust, because he does have the capability of doing that. And again, you know, your wrist injury, you change the windup, and is he going to be as good a pitcher? And they figure that he can still be successful on most nights, even if the opposition can run at will.
When you're a dominating pitcher, you don't let that many guys on base anyway, but Doc has not been dominating the last couple of years. Cal Daniels, who has driven in a run and scored a run and is 1 for 2 on the night, fouls it back for strike 1.
Yeah, not as dominating. When you're 24 and 4, as he was with a 153 earned run average for the entire year, how can you ever match that type of year?
And really, it's almost a burden that he's carried since he's had that great year. Daniels lays off the high fastball, 1-1.
I think the saddest game last year was a makeup game between the O's and the A's, and 40,000 seat stadium, about 1,000 people showed up, and they didn't even sing the Star Spangled Banner. Just everyone in the crowd stood up and told a little bit about themselves.
Personally introduced. Well, there's a good breaking ball from the doctor for strike 2, and it's 1-2. And as you saw, 9 of the 11 outs have been strikeouts.
Just a great curveball.
Lord Charles.
Yeah, at the knees on the outside corner.
Foul back, still 1-2.
Yeah, I hope when the Mets come to LA about 5th inning, they just all walk off the field, wave to the crowd, and say, "We don't want to get stuck in traffic," and just leave.
Yeah, if
leave
the
in the
fans
middle
can
of the
do
game.
it. Yeah. Why can't the players do it?
Late arriving, early departed.
By the worst ticket in Dodger Stadium, you're sitting at the field by the 2nd inning. Just make your way down there.
No sense buying the good seats.
Oh,
They'll
no.
be available soon.
Oh yeah, 3rd inning.
High cheese gets him. Gooden strikes out the side again. The Dodgers leave a runner at 3rd. Gooden has 10, and the Mets lead by 4.
Red Devil enamel. You can always count on its durable finish.
You saw him in Batman, and you're going to see him tomorrow night in the comic relief special. Robert Wall. Robert, welcome.
Thank you.
He too is a giant baseball fan.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'm a big baseball.
It's not that big.
No. Hey, watch that.
Well, Robert will be participating tomorrow night. Elaine was telling us she's the leadoff hitter. Do you know where you are?
I'm cleanup.
Are you batting cleanup?
I'm batting cleanup.
Speaking of batting cleanup, Eddie Murray, who looks to be laboring and favoring that hamstring, grounds to second for out number 1 here in the 5th inning.
A cold night, down by 5 runs. That hamstring will probably tighten up before the night's over.
We may have seen the last of Eddie Murray, is what you're telling us.
I don't know about that.
He's not one to take himself out.
Do you think Eddie's range will be limited by the
All I know is he led the National League in fielding percentage.
That's right.
What does that mean? It means he didn't drop too many balls.
But does it reflect that he didn't get to very many?
That's what the scouts say.
Hubie Brooks fouls it on for strike 1. Robert, you've written material for Billy Crystal, for the Grammys, for the Emmys, and done a lot of great work outside of your stand-up work. I know that comic relief is very important to you, as it is to all of your friends, and it really is a fraternity, isn't it?
Well, it really has turned into one. It's just, first of all, it's a nice cause. Everybody gets together. As a rule, comics are a competitive group, and what's nice about this is that. Oh, he broke off that one, huh? What is that, 11 now?
Yes.
11 Ks, huh?
And another big curveball from Gooden.
Oh.
Well, Dr. K has returned tonight.
Yes, he is in. The sign says the doctor is in, and he's operating.
And that's one of his toughest outs, Hubie Brooks, who's notoriously had always hit Gooden real well.
And also, it's the second time he froze him with a curveball. First strikeout of Hubie was the same pitch.
Absolutely.
So, but the nice thing about comic relief is the fact that 100% of the donations go to the cause. I don't know of any other charity where total 100% of the donations go exactly to the fund.
That's great.
And I mean, there's so many good people involved. In fact, 2 of the opposing managers will both be there tomorrow night.
Davey was telling me before the game, Davey Johnson, that he's got to go tomorrow to rehearse or
That's
something.
Right. That's right.
And Tommy Lasorda, of course, will be there.
Right, Tommy will be there.
He's been doing stand-up comedy for what, 41 years with the Dodgers.
Mike Scioscia has 2 hits and possibly 3. Strawberry coming on, makes the play. Strawberry, who has been criticized for a lack of hustle and desire in the outfield, comes up with a fine play to end the inning, and the Mets still lead by 5.
We're painting with Sears' best weather beater paint.
Right at a 90-mile-an-hour average so far in the game, which is normal. There's a base hit leading off the inning for Lenny Harris. Dodgers have the best of the Mets in the hit column, but it's the opposite in the run column, which is where it counts.
Mike Hartley up and throwing.
That's a huge Achilles heel for the Dodgers, though. They, with Gott and Howell out, and their middle relief has not been good.
Yeah, and then Orel Hershiser shelved until next year. Hopefully, he'll be back.
Alfredo Griffin to bunt, but the ball was not fouled. It just went inside, and Lenny Harris takes a big turn at second. And we'll see whether they scored a wild pitch or a pass ball. Looked like it was catchable.
Now, Jim, do you think that's a good play? You're 5 runs down. I mean, are you sacrificing there?
Oh, right here, I think he's bunting for a base hit. Yeah, okay. He's going to, if the ball's out over the plate, which is what Lenny Harris, of course, 5 runs down, you don't want to get thrown out at third base.
With nobody out.
And again, he knows that from home plate to second base is a little over 128 feet, where Mackey Sasser was back by the beginning of the stands. There's no way that he can throw the ball all the way to second in time to get Harris. So a little bit of a hot dog move there.
It is a passed ball charged to Mackey Sasser. And Griffin skies it into center field. That's not very deep. Boston is over toward right center. Harris tags, but he's not going anywhere with 1 out. Steve Zabriskie, Jim Palmer, joined by comedian Robert Wall here tonight. Robert of Comic Relief tomorrow night here in New York. One of many comedians. And Chris Gwynn will be the pinch hitter for Mike Maddox. Gwynn, the brother of San Diego's Tony Gwynn.
I want to ask Jim about the controversy surrounding the Mets rotation, how they're going with Doc Gooden every 5 days, irregardless of with the exception perhaps of Viola, of the other starters. I mean, you have a David Cone going on 7 days rest. John Darling had 10 days rest between starts and even came in relief. This is not doing well for the other pitchers. I mean, can they do this over a period of time and be successful?
Well, over a period of time, you'll get into the normal schedule. Then they'll all pitch in sequence. I had a chance to discuss that with Davey Johnson, the manager of the Mets, and he said, didn't they used to try to get the best pitchers out there most often? And what he's talking about is Viola's 6-0. The next guy, even though Cone has had some outstanding years as far as an ace, is Doc Gooden. Coming off an off year, wants to see him pitch regularly to see if he is the pitcher he was 2 years ago. And I guess he feels that it's a no-win situation. You're not going to make everybody happy, and what's going to happen is you're going to make some guys want to be traded, as Ron Darling does. Bottom line, get your aces out there. No, it's not best for everybody.
No. But when you got guys like Darling and Ojeda and Cone, who are, these are solid starters. I mean, are you sacrificing three?
Yes, you are, and it's been done year in and year out, and will be done again. And I think Davey says, hey, I got a better chance with Viola and Gooden going out there on a regular basis.
A fastball right in there to Gwynn, and the count now 3-1.
But I see your point. I mean, when David Cone is on like he was 2 years ago when he was 20-3, or he's the pitcher he was the second half of last year, I think I'd send him out there as often as I could too. Now, if he double vapor locks like he did in Atlanta and allows those runs to score, we want to keep him off the mound those nights.
Strike two, 3-2 now. Good win.
What about the case of Darling, a guy who consistently gives you 230 innings a year? Up to this point, he's thrown, I think, 22 innings.
Well, he's going to struggle.
That's why he's unhappy too.
Yeah, 22 innings.
Well, you got too many guys who can start, and not enough starts for them with the off days and the rainouts and other things. And that's just a juggling act that all managers have to go through who are in that position. Strike three. Gooden picks up his 12th strikeout of the night for the second out here in the 6th inning.
I guess. Boy, I mean, just the riding fastball, dead red, whatever you want to call it. We don't cut. The best formula to hit Dwight Gooden is not to sit around for 5 innings, grab a bat and try to come off with the high fastball. Just doesn't work.
They're probably talking to the dugout like, well, you sure you want to go up there?
Now, for a couple of years, they were trying to get Gooden to get away from the fastball. And his stats... Who was? Well, Mel Stottlemyre and the Met pitching staff, they wanted to rely more on his curveball. They said, that they only had so many fastballs. Yet this theory throughout the years, I've noticed, has been proven wrong, that you're better off staying with your fastball. It takes less out of your arm than actually the curveball.
It does, and also I think what Dwight has learned is that there's so much medical help out there from a standpoint of sports medicine. He's doing arm exercises. He's gone through the drug rehabilitation. I mean, you're talking about a guy at 25 that, look, he's going right to the Hall of Fame if he stays healthy.
Samuel files a high fastball back, and it's 1-2.
It's really important for the Mets to get a really quality start or two out of Gooden in a row, too. It's just good for the whole psyche of the ball club. Viola's 6-0, which is great, but this is still the guy that they count on. This is still,
the franchise type.
Yeah, well, you really count on each other, and the great comfortability of pitching in a good starting staff is that if you don't win on Monday, the other guy's going to pick you up on Tuesday. It made my job very easy all those years in Baltimore, surrounded by other guys of equal ability.
Gooden with a big curveball, and Samuel just gets the end of the bat on it to stay alive. The count's still 1-2 with 2 out, and Lenny Harris at second.
Before I go, I want to thank you guys too. I mean, for having me in the booth, and tell you guys at ESPN are doing a great job. For baseball holics like myself, it's just like going to Nirvana.
We're everywhere. Don Drysdale said it best. He said, you're the 25th guy that I've met for ESPN as an announcer.
Well, we appreciate that, Robert. And we appreciate what all of you are doing with Comic Relief.
My pleasure.
High fastball, and this time Samuel lays off 2-2.
And I should also mention that if you don't normally receive HBO, you will be getting it tomorrow night during Comic Relief. They're clearing the station, so everyone who has cable will be receiving Comic Relief tomorrow night.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. We'll let everybody see it, and of course, hopefully contribute.
Thank you.
The curveball popped back out of play behind the Mets dugout, and Samuel hanging tough. It's still 2-2.
That was Winfield who caught that ball right there. I don't know if you know. It was Winfield.
He made a quick trip back to New York.
Was he holding out for Texas? What's the story? Is he holding out for Cleveland?
He's holding off to make it tough for George.
I mean, he's going to the Angels. What's so bad?
I'm sure eventually he will. Grounded foul the other way. And that was a nasty breaking ball that Samuel got a
Well,
piece
this is
of.
what they'd like Juan Samuel to be able to do. I mean, here's a guy that struck out 168 times and is their leadoff man. So what they want him to do is choke up a little bit, try to make contact when you get 2 strikes. We've already seen he's got 4 stolen bases already. If he gets on, he could help this offense immensely.
This year, Samuel leads the National League in the most times striking out. And he's gone again. It's a baker's dozen for Gooden with 13 Ks through 6. Our thanks to Robert Wall of Comic Relief. We'll be back with the Mets leading by 5.